My beloved brothers and sisters, listen carefully. There are foods that look harmless, even sweet to the tongue, but they are weapons. Instruments the enemy uses to dull your spirit, to silence your prayer life, and to weaken your discernment. The devil does not always come with horns and fire. Sometimes he comes with flavor, with aroma, with comfort. He knows that if he can touch your appetite, he can touch your soul. The first food is sugar. Oh, how it sparkles. It dances on your tongue like joy, but it poisons your peace. Sugar whispers, just one more bite. And while you smile, your body becomes a temple filled with fatigue, anxiety, and confusion. Your prayer loses focus because your spirit is fighting the chaos in your bloodstream. When you keep feeding the flesh, the spirit begins to starve. The enemy knows if you are always craving sweetness, you will stop craving righteousness. The second food is refined white bread, that soft, innocent, looking slice that melts so easily. It promises satisfaction but steals your strength. It is stripped of life, stripped of fiber, stripped of truth, just like many souls in this age who look full but are empty inside. This bread raises your blood, then drops your faith. It makes you tired, lazy, and easily tempted. The devil smiles when you eat lifeless food because he knows a lifeless body cannot house a fiery spirit. And the third food is processed meat. Those things made in factories packed with chemicals and death. You think it gives you energy, but it brings only decay. The more you eat of it, the more your cells lose their rhythm with heaven's design. Your body becomes heavy, your dreams clouded, your prayers shorter. You begin to prefer comfort to consecration. The enemy claps his hands, for he has found another believer distracted by taste instead of truth. These foods are not only destroying health, they are dulling the mind that should be sharp in prayer. They are not just filling the stomach, they are emptying the spirit. When you eat what is dead, something inside you begins to die. But when you choose life, fresh fruits, clean water, living food, your body becomes a vessel ready for divine power. The devil wants to rule through appetite. God wants to reign through discipline. Every meal can be an altar, every bite a choice between freedom and bondage. So do not let your plate become your prison. Eat with purpose, eat with revelation, and let your appetite serve the spirit, not the serpent. My dear friends, there is a deep mystery hidden in the things we put into our bodies. The body is not just a machine that needs fuel. It is a living sanctuary designed by the Spirit of God to carry His presence. The moment we forget, we begin to treat what is sacred as common. The world has turned food into an idol, and the devil has turned appetite into a weapon. He knows that if he can make you bow to your cravings, he can make you kneel before him without you ever realizing it. Many believers today are not bound by demons of fear or lust. They are bound by the quiet chains of food addiction. They pray, but they cannot focus. They worship, but their bodies are tired. They hear the word, but their minds wander. And behind it all, there is a subtle manipulation happening through what they eat. When the enemy tempted Eve in the garden, he did not come with a sword. He came with fruit. He came through appetite. He came through the desire to taste something forbidden. That same strategy has not changed. He still comes through appetite. Only now he wraps it in packaging, labels, colors, and sweet smells. He hides destruction in convenience and calls it modern living. Every time you pick up that sugary drink, every time you open that bag of chips, every time you warm that processed meat, there is a silent transaction happening between your spirit and the spirit of the world. The devil whispers, it's just food. But God whispers, it's your temple. The sugar, the first weapon, has taken more people captive than many visible sins. It enters quietly, celebrated in holidays, shared in joy, but inside it changes everything. It makes the heart race, the mind restless, the mood unstable. It blinds the eyes of the spirit because it constantly demands attention from the flesh. After you eat it, you crave more, not because you are hungry, but because you are under control. Sugar becomes a ruler. It dictates when you eat, what you eat, and how much you eat. It doesn't satisfy, it enslaves. When your body is ruled by sugar, your spirit is pushed into silence. You become a believer whose prayers are weak, not because you lack faith, but because your vessel is polluted. The same hands that were designed to heal the sick are shaking with exhaustion caused by the poison of sweetness. Do you not see how the enemy disguises destruction as delight? He knows that if he can make the body weak, the spirit will be distracted. A weak body produces a weak prayer life. How many times have you tried to pray after a heavy meal, after eating too much sugar, and you felt sleepy, unfocused, or impatient? That is not just digestion, that is warfare. The devil uses what we eat to steal the energy that should be used for intercession, for worship, for revelation. He makes the stomach a battlefield. But the Bible says, do not be mastered by anything. Sugar masters many, yet they think they are free. Then there is that soft white bread. It looks innocent, even comforting. It reminds people of warmth, of family, of fullness. But inside that whiteness, there is emptiness. It has been stripped of its natural goodness, refined until nothing living remains. It fills your stomach but starves your cells. It gives you a momentary feeling of fullness but leaves your spirit tired. This is how the world operates. It gives you things that fill you but do not feed you. It gives you pleasures that numb but do not nourish. When you fill your body with dead bread, you mirror the spiritual condition of a generation that consumes sermons without substance, entertainment without enlightenment, religion without relationship. You feel full but remain hungry. You are busy but not fruitful. That same pattern begins in the kitchen and spreads into your spiritual life. You see, God never designed bread to be white and lifeless. He designed grains to be whole, full of fiber and nutrients, full of life. But man stripped it down for convenience, for shelf life, for profit. And that is exactly what the devil does with truth. He strips it of power, leaving only appearance. The more you eat what is processed, the more you begin to love what is artificial. You lose the appetite for what is natural. That is how the spirit of this world operates. First through your taste, then through your thoughts. It conditions your desire away from the living things of God. Soon, the idea of fasting feels impossible, not because your spirit refuses, but because your body has been trained to demand constant feeding. And then there is processed meat. It is the food of death disguised as life. It comes packed, preserved, colored, and seasoned, all to deceive your senses. You think you are eating food, but you are consuming chemicals, salt, and fear. Animals raised in cruelty, filled with hormones and sickness, become your meal. And when you eat death, death enters you in subtle ways. You become heavy, anxious, aggressive, impatient. Your sleep becomes restless. You may not understand why your mind feels cloudy, why your energy is low, why your emotions are unstable. It is not only psychological, it is spiritual. The vibration of death travels through what you eat. You are what you consume, not just physically, but spiritually. When you eat living food, your body aligns with the rhythm of life. When you eat dead food, your body aligns with decay. The devil understands that he cannot touch a believer's spirit directly, so he goes after the gate of the body. He attacks through appetite. He sends distractions to the dinner table. He fills the shelves with things that taste good but bring confusion. And because believers have lost the gift of discernment in daily life, they eat destruction and call it satisfaction. He uses food to control emotions, to manipulate moods, to silence the power of fasting. Have you noticed how difficult it has become for many to go one day without sugar, without meat, without caffeine? That is not hunger, that is bondage. A free spirit can say no. A bound spirit cannot. This is why spiritual discipline is not only about prayer and reading the word. It is also about what you eat. The saints of old understood this. They knew that what you put in your mouth can either open heaven or close it. They practiced fasting not as punishment but as purification. When the stomach is quiet, the spirit becomes loud. When the body is light, the soul can soar. But today, the enemy has filled the earth with noise, even in our food. Artificial flavors, artificial colors, artificial lives. And with every bite, believers drift further from sensitivity to the spirit. Imagine this: you eat sugar in the morning, you eat white bread in the afternoon, you eat processed meat at night. You are feeding the flesh all day, and then you wonder why your prayers feel empty. The same energy that should lift your voice to heaven is now trapped in digestion, inflammation, and fatigue. You cannot climb a mountain when your body is heavy with toxins. You cannot hear God clearly when your bloodstream is screaming with imbalance. The devil laughs not because you sinned openly, but because he has turned your appetite into a leash. But do not be deceived. This is not about diet trends or worldly health movements. This is about holiness. Food can either sanctify or enslave. When you eat what God made, fruit from the earth, grains from the field, water from the stream, Your body rejoices, your cells sing, your spirit awakens. You become a clearer channel for divine energy. But when you eat what man made in factories, what is mixed with chemicals and greed, your body groans. You may not hear it, but heaven does. The temple of God is being polluted daily, not by idols of gold, but by meals of convenience. Look around at this generation. There is more food than ever before, yet more sickness. There is more knowledge about nutrition, yet less wisdom about discernment. There are fitness programs and health influencers everywhere, but no one speaks about the spiritual consequence of what we eat. The devil has hidden himself behind the science of pleasure. He has made sugar a comforter, bread a distraction, and meat an addiction. He knows that if the temple is broken, the Spirit's fire will burn dimly. He does not need to attack the altar when he can poison the offering. Many believers pray for healing, but healing cannot dwell in a body that continues to invite poison. They pray for energy, but energy cannot coexist with disobedience to natural law. God's creation provides everything needed for life and vitality, yet we prefer the counterfeit. And then we wonder why our faith feels weak. You cannot fill your stomach with artificial things and expect authentic power. You cannot serve both the table of the Lord and the table of the world. Some will say, it's just food. Why spiritualize it? But to the spiritually awake, everything has meaning. Food is not just physical substance. It carries vibration, memory, and intent. Every plant, every grain, every fruit is infused with divine life. When you eat it, you take in that life. When you eat what has been altered and corrupted, you take in confusion. That is why prayer before meals is not just tradition. It is an act of cleansing, of separation, of reclaiming what has been stolen. It is the declaration that what enters this temple must serve the glory of God. The enemy does not fear your Sunday worship if he can keep your body bound Monday through Saturday. He knows that a tired believer cannot pray long, that a sick believer cannot travel far, that a distracted believer cannot discern truth. And so, he hides in the kitchen. He hides in fast food chains, in supermarkets, in advertisements that promise happiness through flavor. He hides in habits passed down through families. He hides behind convenience. But the Spirit calls us to awaken, to see food not as pleasure, but as partnership with God's design. There is power in simplicity. When you return to the basics, clean food, pure water, gratitude, your senses begin to sharpen. You start hearing God more clearly. Dreams become vivid. Your energy aligns with your purpose. You no longer need stimulants to stay awake or sedatives to sleep. Your body begins to heal itself because you have stopped feeding the enemy. The cells of your body are listening. They respond to every choice you make. When you eat life, they praise. When you eat death, they mourn. Even the act of cooking can be sacred. When you prepare food with awareness, with prayer, with gratitude, you transform it. The energy in your hands blesses it. That is why many traditional cultures prayed or sang while cooking. They understood the unseen power of intention. But today, food is rushed, microwaved, consumed before it even reaches consciousness. We no longer eat, we devour. We no longer nourish, we numb. And the enemy smiles because he knows the distracted eater is a distracted worshiper. The call is not to fear food, but to redeem it. To take back what was corrupted and make it holy again. To choose with intention to eat as an act of worship. Every bite can either build the temple or break it. You do not need to become a slave to diet rules, but you must become a servant of awareness. Ask before you eat, does this bring life or death? Does it make me more sensitive to the spirit or more comfortable in the flesh? Does it prepare me for prayer or make me lazy afterward? These questions are the foundation of spiritual maturity in daily life. When you begin to see food through this lens, you realize the battle is not on your plate but in your will. The devil cannot force you to eat. He can only tempt. Every time you choose differently, heaven rejoices. Every time you resist, the temple grows stronger. Every time you eat what is pure, you declare war against the corruption of the flesh. You become a living witness that holiness can dwell even in hunger and thirst. The Spirit of God desires to dwell in bodies that are awake. He desires temples that are not filled with toxins, but with light. He wants your body to be so aligned with heaven that sickness finds no home, that fatigue finds no rest, that confusion finds no doorway. This is not fantasy, it is divine design. When you honor your body, you honor the one who made it. When you eat life, you proclaim that death has no power over you. And so the invitation is simple yet profound. Awaken your discernment. Look again at your food. Ask yourself who is feeding you, the Spirit of God or the spirit of the world. Every day you have the power to choose life or death, blessing or curse, health or decay. The devil will keep using sugar, white bread, and processed meat to seduce the senses of this generation. But those who walk in light will see through the deception. They will eat to glorify, not to gratify. They will live as temples, not as tombs. They will rise each morning not with cravings, but with clarity, ready to hear, to pray, to move in divine power. Because nothing in them belongs to the enemy, not even their appetite. There is something deeply spiritual about hunger. When your stomach is empty, your spirit begins to speak. But when your stomach is always full, your spirit grows quiet. That is why the enemy works so hard to make you constantly eat, constantly snack, constantly crave. He knows that as long as you are feeding the body, you are silencing the spirit. The modern world calls it comfort, but it is not comfort, it is control. The devil has disguised control as convenience. He does not want you to fast because fasting awakens you. He does not want you to eat clean because clean food sharpens your sensitivity to the divine. So he fills the shelves with distractions, bright boxes, sugary promises, and meals that never truly satisfy. When you eat sugar, you think you are feeding your happiness, but you are feeding your weakness. Your mood becomes a slave to your blood sugar. You are happy for a moment, then tired, then irritable, then empty again. It becomes a cycle. Up and down, high and crash, joy and sorrow. This is not the rhythm of life God created. This is the rhythm of bondage. The spirit of confusion lives in instability. Sugar trains your body to depend on chaos, and your emotions begin to follow. You can't focus in prayer. You lose patience with your family. You lose gratitude in daily life. It's not always a demon attacking your peace. Sometimes it's the food you've been trusting. Have you noticed how children today cannot sit still, cannot focus, cannot listen? They are raised on sugar. Their bodies are small, but their cravings are strong. And while the world gives it a scientific name, the spirit knows its manipulation. A generation is being raised to worship sweetness, to find pleasure without purpose, satisfaction without sacrifice. And when these children grow, their faith will struggle because they have been taught from childhood that every desire must be instantly fulfilled. The enemy has replaced patience with pleasure, but true spiritual power is built in waiting, in discipline, in learning to say no. Now think of that white bread again, so soft, so easy to chew, so light. It asks nothing of you, it gives you nothing in return. It's a symbol of the modern soul. Everything must be quick, simple, pre-packaged, effortless. We do not want to grind, to bake, to wait for the process that gives real nourishment. We just want something that fills us for now. But that for now becomes the pattern of our entire life. You begin to live for comfort, not growth. You choose what is easy over what is right. White bread has no resistance, and it trains your will to have none. It weakens your inner man because it removes the need for effort. And yet, every time you chew whole, living food, your body learns strength. Your mind learns patience. Your soul learns endurance. Even food can teach spiritual lessons if you are willing to listen. The more you eat dead food, the more you become spiritually numb. Dead food comes from dead processes, refined, bleached, stripped of its essence. It looks beautiful, but it has no life. It fills your belly, but not your being. You become like what you consume, white on the outside, empty on the inside. Your skin glows for a while, but your eyes lose light. You smile, but feel nothing. You speak of God, but hear nothing. You serve, but feel no fire. This is the silent victory of the enemy, to make the believer functional but hollow. The devil doesn't always need to destroy. Sometimes he just needs to deplete. And processed meat, that is a shadow of something even darker. It represents the spiritual trade-off of this age. Take something living, destroy it, rebuild it in your own image, and call it better. The same way humans manipulate meat, they manipulate truth. The same way factories add flavor to hide corruption, the enemy adds temptation to hide decay. Every bite of processed meat is a sermon about compromise. It teaches the body to prefer what is fake because it tastes stronger. That's the same strategy the devil uses with sin. He makes fake pleasure taste stronger than real peace. He seasons destruction until it feels desirable. When you eat what has been created in greed, you partner with that spirit. Those who make these foods are not thinking of your body or your spirit. They are thinking of profit. The system of the world is built on consumption. Keep people craving, keep them buying, keep them sick so they stay dependent. The food industry feeds the medical industry. The medical industry feeds the pharmaceutical one. The chain of bondage is complete, and at the center of it all, the enemy smiles. He has made humanity worship the stomach. People no longer ask if something brings life. They ask only if it tastes good. Pleasure has become the new god. You can tell a generation's spirituality by how it eats. When people rush through meals, eating mindlessly, they have lost awareness of life itself. When people eat without gratitude, they have lost touch with the source. When people eat while angry, scrolling, talking endlessly, they fill their bodies with confusion. Food prepared without love carries emptiness. Food eaten without gratitude carries restlessness. It's not superstition. It's spiritual law. The energy which you eat becomes the energy that lives in you. The prophets and saints of old understood the sacred rhythm of eating. They knew that every grain of rice, every drop of water, was a covenant between the earth and heaven. They did not eat for comfort, they ate for connection. They prayed before, during, and after meals because they recognized that even eating was worship. But today, believers pray before eating as routine, not reverence. The prayer has no life because the food itself has no life. It's a ritual over poison. We ask God to bless what He never designed. We ask Him to sanctify what the devil has corrupted. But even blessings cannot change the nature of what is dead. If you want to live in clarity, you must eat clarity. If you want to walk in peace, you must eat peace. If you want to carry divine light, you must eat things that carry light: fruits, vegetables, grains, water. These are not just nutrients, they are frequencies of life. Each one carries the breath of creation. When you eat them with awareness, your body aligns with the rhythm of heaven. You feel it. Your mind becomes still, your heart becomes calm, your prayers flow. You no longer need stimulants to feel awake. You are awake because you are alive. The devil is terrified of a believer who eats with purpose, because such a believer cannot be easily controlled. They are not ruled by cravings, not manipulated by mood. Their body listens to their spirit, not the other way around. The enemy's entire strategy depends on reversing that order, to make the spirit submit to the flesh. That's why gluttony is one of his most silent weapons. Gluttony is not only about eating too much, it's about being unable to say no. Every yes to food that harms you is a no to your destiny. Every indulgence in what weakens you is a seed of surrender. Think of how much time, energy, and emotion humanity pours into food. Shopping, cooking, watching shows about it, arguing about it. Meanwhile, the inner man starves. We feed the flesh every few hours, but feed the spirit maybe once a day, sometimes once a week. And then we wonder why the world feels heavy, why anxiety grows, why faith feels dry. The imbalance between physical feeding and spiritual feeding has made believers powerless. The devil doesn't need to attack your prayer life if he can make you too tired to pray. He doesn't need to block revelation if he can make your mind too foggy to understand. He doesn't need to take your joy if he can give you sugar highs instead. Even water has become a battlefield. The simple, pure water that once gave life is now replaced by colored carbonated chemical potions. People drink poison and call it refreshment. The devil has taken what is sacred and turned it into an addiction. And yet, when the body cries for water, most people feed it sugar instead. They mistake thirst for hunger, spiritual emptiness for physical craving. They eat when they should pray, they snack when they should be silent. The stomach becomes a graveyard of missed revelation. The discipline of food is not about denial. It's about dominion. It's about proving that the spirit rules the flesh. Every fast you complete, every meal you purify, every craving you conquer, you declare that heaven rules in you. You are not what you crave, you are what you choose. Every time you say no to sugar, no to white bread, no to processed meat, you are not just refusing food, you are breaking the invisible cords that tie you to this world. You are rising above manipulation. You are saying to the devil, you will not control me through my appetite. There is a sacred strength that comes from clean living. Your senses open. You begin to discern spiritual things more easily. Dreams become messages, not confusion. You wake up lighter, clearer, closer to the heartbeat of creation. Your body becomes a prophetic instrument. When you speak, people feel peace. When you touch, healing flows naturally. You no longer strive to be spiritual. You simply are, because your vessel is not clogged by corruption. This is the secret the devil does not want the church to know. He wants believers praying for miracles while ignoring the miracle of obedience. The earth itself groans under the weight of what we eat. Forests are cut, oceans poisoned, animals tortured, all so that humans can eat in excess. Every bite of processed meat carries the cry of suffering creation. How can we pray for peace while we eat pain? How can we ask for harmony while we consume cruelty? Even the environment reflects the state of our appetite. The destruction of nature is the reflection of the destruction of the inner man. When we heal our relationship with food, we begin to heal our relationship with creation. It is time to reclaim dominion, not the dominion of exploitation, but of stewardship. To eat with respect, to choose with awareness, to bless the earth as we nourish ourselves. This is spiritual warfare at the simplest level. The devil fights in small things, in a spoon of sugar, in a slice of bread, in a piece of meat. But victory also hides in small things, in a glass of water, in a handful of nuts, in a fruit that carries sunlight. You do not need a stage or a sermon to defeat the enemy. You can defeat him with your next meal. You see, the body is not evil, but it must be trained. It is a wild horse that can either carry the spirit or throw the rider. The more you train it through discipline, the more it serves you instead of controlling you. The first victory of every true disciple is not over demons, but over desire. You must win the war of appetite before you can win any other war. Those who cannot say no to food will struggle to say no to temptation. Those who cannot control the tongue in eating will not control it in speaking. The principles are the same. Dominion begins with discipline. The modern believer prays for the power of the early church, but eats like a king in Babylon. You cannot live like the world and expect heavenly results. You cannot fill your temple with junk and expect the fire of purity to dwell there. The Holy Spirit is gentle. He will not stay in a polluted temple. When you clean your body, you make room for His presence. When you live in moderation, you live in harmony. Let your meals become meditations. Eat slowly with gratitude. Let every bite remind you of the source. Let your table be an altar, not an escape. Bless the food not with empty words, but with awareness. Thank the earth, thank the Creator, thank the process that brought life to your plate. In that moment, you reclaim food from the hands of the enemy. You take what was meant to control you and turn it into communion. Do not underestimate the power of these small choices. The devil fears consistency more than intensity. He fears a believer who quietly chooses righteousness daily more than one who shouts loudly on Sunday. Every time you choose life, you are creating a pattern that heaven can bless. Every meal can become a declaration of freedom, every glass of water a prayer, every act of self-control a sermon. One day, when your body feels light and your mind clear, you will realize that prison was never the food itself. It was the habit. The moment you break the habit, the chains fall. You will see food as God intended, a source of energy, not emotion, a tool, not a trap. You will eat to live, not live to eat. You will find joy in simplicity, strength in moderation, and power in purity. And as you walk this path, something extraordinary will happen. The cravings that once ruled you will disappear. You will look at sugar, and it will no longer call your name. You will pass by processed food, and your body will reject it naturally. You will no longer be at war with yourself. Peace will return to your stomach, to your thoughts, to your prayers. You will feel life flow through you like a quiet river. The Spirit will dwell easily within you because nothing inside resists Him. This is the hidden wisdom, that the battle for holiness often begins at the table. What you eat shapes what you become. The enemy may have his traps on every shelf, but you have authority in every choice. You can say no. You can choose life. You can break the cycle. You can take back control of the temple. You can become the kind of believer whose very presence carries freedom, because nothing in you belongs to the enemy, not even your appetite. So, my beloved, remember this truth deep in your spirit. The war for your destiny is not only fought in the heavens, but also in the hidden corners of your daily life. On your plate, in your habits, in the quiet choices no one sees. The enemy knows that if he can master your appetite, he can weaken your authority. But God has given you power, not to be ruled by cravings, but to rule over them. Every time you choose life, You choose freedom. Every time you say no to what destroys you, you say yes to the Spirit who gives life. Your body is the temple of divine fire. Do not let the enemy pollute the altar. Purify what enters your mouth, and you will purify what flows from your heart. The power of heaven is waiting for vessels that are clean, alert, and surrendered. Let your table become an altar, your food a covenant, your appetite a testimony of victory. Do not let the devil control you through what you crave. Stand up, take back your dominion, and let your choices shout to the powers of darkness, this temple belongs to God. Not even my appetite bows to you.